Lewis. Oh, man, he came here, tooted, and he left. It's unbelievable. That guy is so gross.
Ridiculous.
Oh, wait a second. I forgot the... there we go. I forgot the almost live button. So it's just us talking on stream without... Oh, my goodness. He ventriloquismed that whole sentence into my face. It's unbelievable. Oh, hey, let's do the tweet real fast while I remember. I actually can't open Twitter anymore. Anytime I try to, it just opens Microsoft Edge. Talk about a cursed. Let's see here. Let's change it from money sign 619 to hashtag 619. There we go. Okay, now we're really, really ready. Boom! And we're live still. All right, let's wait for them to pour in here, Griffin. I feel like we're missing some stuff. We got Jay Cruz here, who's got a very, enthusiastic gobble, gobble, yeah. We got Vince Diaz here. I turned off the monetization. I felt like it was way too annoying. And so hopefully you guys will have far fewer ads popping up during the live stream, which I'm sure was annoying. And I don't think we need to be interrupted for...
But what about the several dollars of revenue that it made?
So we did an experiment, and I wasn't concerned about the revenue at all. Obviously, that won't make a difference. But what I heard was that
the lifeblood of this company means nothing to you.
I don't care for money. I don't work for money. Clearly, what I was trying to test out was I heard that if you turned on monetization, then YouTube would actually promote the live show to your subscribers more, which I don't feel like that actually happened. And it was pumping in so many ads to the show that even I was getting annoyed with it. And I was like, this is ridiculous. We don't need to have ads every 5 minutes or however often it was. You're having none of my money. I'll get your money eventually, Ross. I'll get your money eventually. Your pounds. I'll get your pounds. My hands in those beautiful pounds of yours. Let's see. I think we're ready to roll. And, of course, we got a ton of stuff to talk about. I don't even know if we're going to make it all in here. Hey, Griffin, did you send me a link or put a link in the show notes to? Oh, you did. Great. For the predictions. Did you look to see who won? Of course, you had to update it, so I guess you know.
Yeah, I did.
But
I know.
I'm truly curious because when they were going through that keynote, I was like, oh, wow, there's definitely some things in here that I didn't see coming.
I will tell you, Lewis did not win. So
well,
it just
then I'm
goes to
happy.
show that it pays to listen to the show because then you know what's going on and then you know what's going to happen.
I don't care who won as long as it wasn't Lewis. I'm content. Hey, guys, while you're in here, can you tickle that like button for us? Speaking of sending the stream to people, think about it this way. Think how many of your friends and family are forced to endure 2 to 3 hours, 4 hours of the talk show because they didn't know that there was something else out there that was more entertaining. So if you click the like button, I hate to like beg, but it is true. If you click it, then I think YouTube actually does show the stream to more people. Or I could turn on monetization again. That's not
It's
a threat.
a threat.
I'm not going to do that.
You better hit the like button or
Even
else
if
we'll
you
turn
don't
it
hit the
back
like
on.
button, I'm still not going to do that. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Likes are going up. The likes have increased 100%. I appreciate the those of you doing that. Okay. I think we're ready to roll, Griffin. Should we get this thing going?
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's go ahead and cue up Mrs. D. Oh, Mrs. D. Mrs. D. Oh, I heard there was an explosion in your area. Oh, yes, Mrs. D. That's true. My power actually went out and just came back on. Oh, well, I was on a date with LK and we also had a big explosion. Oh, gross. Please don't talk anymore about that. Please. We need to do the show, and we want to make sure there's people here when we finally start the content. So, if you don't mind, Mrs. D, let's get everything rolling. I got the notes up. I got the music queued. Let's get this thing rolling in 3, 2. Hello, and welcome to the CultCast, the best 30-plus minute Apple conversation you're going to hear all week long. I'm your host, Aaron Elijah. Joining me today, I half expect Lewis Wallace to rappel down from his ceiling at any moment, capture him, take him back to the Cult of Mac writer's cage, where he doesn't live. He's lucky. He's a writer for Cult of Mac. Griffin Jones is here.
I'm going to quote Tim Cook when I say, good evening.
Well, it's not evening, though. I guess it is for some people listening. That really threw me
I
off.
wound up.
I feel like he really missed an opportunity there to be a little bit more campy than he was. Like he should have put some more, I don't know, good evening, some warble on it or something.
Well, Johnny Cerrugi's "Welcome to my lab" that more than made up for it in my book.
That is true. That was a thing about the event that I enjoyed a lot more than I thought I was going to. Was all the campy Halloween stuff and like the bats flying over Cupertino and stuff. And actually, I tweeted out, or I X'd out, I guess, that this was the first night mode event that we've ever seen. Like, did you notice the theme was all dark, all the lights were off everywhere, and it looked like it was a night mode keynote, which was pretty cool, I thought. And it's so different from what we normally get that it actually made it a lot more fun.
The giant bright lights coming from inside Apple Park, though, they kind of spoiled it. Like, they came really close to like making the campus look legitimately spooky, but then you see like the giant bright LEDs coming from the ring, and it's like, okay, well, you can turn those down a little bit, or.
Well, they had to make sure there was enough light to film the whole thing on the iPhone 15.
Yeah.
They can't turn off all the lights because we know that phone is not going to do well in low light scenarios. All right, well, look, we have a lot of stuff to discuss here. I'm going to just call out, if we suddenly disappear, it's because there's a windstorm happening here. It happens every fall, every spring. We start getting a lot of wind, and my power literally went out moments before we tried to go live, and thankfully it came back on. So if we suddenly disappear, I think that we're going to be done with the live stream. We'll probably just try to finish and get the audio version of the show out, since that's what most people are listening to. But if there's any weirdness, that's why. Usually when it comes back on, it stays on. But, dude, I don't know. I mean, there's explosions going off outside. Someone just lit off like an M80 or something. It was like a super loud boom. I don't know what's going on out there. So hopefully my power stays on for the rest of the broadcast. Let's see. Before we dive in, I want to thank Factor for supporting this episode. Let me see. Do I have browser mode set up? Oh, my goodness. Thank goodness I do. I want to thank Factor for supporting this episode. Let me move this over here so I can actually see what I'm doing. The holiday season is among us, and you can get Factor and get nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on these jam-packed days. No wonder it's America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit delivered. Not meal kit, ready-to-eat meal. America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service delivered right to your door. You can get 50% off Factor with code CultCast50 at factormeals.com/CultCast50, factormeals.com/CultCast50. I love having Factor in my house. They're easy to prepare, and they're so tasty, and they give you that protein-packed nutrients that you need to go do that serious workout that Griffin likes to do, where he's just grunting at the top of his lungs in the gym.
I got that yesterday when I mowed my lawn.
Yeah?
For the last time of the year. Yeah, all the leaves had fallen, so it took me like an extra hour to get through it all.
Oh, dude, one of the best things I ever purchased was a electric leaf blower, because you can't just mow over those, man. Like there's unless you have like a serious gas mower, which my mower's electric too, and it can't do the leaves. It just chokes up. But if you blow all the leaves off to the side of the yard, then you can mow. I also want to thank Babbel for supporting this episode. You know what, Griffin? You could be speaking a brand new language by Thanksgiving Day. Are you a bilingual person?
Some would say I haven't even mastered English yet.
Yes, I know some of those people. One of them is in Italy right now. But if you wanted to really surprise Lewis, you could be speaking Italian, better than Lewis speaks Italian, which I don't think is going to be hard for you to accomplish. With Babbel, here's why. Studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and others continue to prove Babbel is better. For instance, one study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a full semester at college. That's how much you can learn. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are designed by over 150 language experts to help you start speaking a language in as little as 3 weeks. And here's the sound that you'll hear as you're getting smarter. Can I pull this up? Why is it closed? It was open. Every time you get something right in Babbel, you'll hear this. That's literally the sound of your brain having new wrinkles put in it, and you're going to be learning a language. And they teach you conversational language, so you'll actually be able to speak with people. And at Thanksgiving dinner, you could start new arguments in new languages. Most people only argue in English here in the U.S., but think about how much fun it would be to start an argument in Italian because you speak that language. Here's a special limited time deal for our listeners to get you started right now. Get 55% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/cultcast. Get 55% off at babbel.com/cultcast. That is spelled BABBEL.com/cultcast. Rules and restrictions may apply. Okay, let's dive in. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's start with the M3 chips. I'm going to just offer right from the top here. I'm feeling very confused and very conflicted about what was announced at this event. I went into it very excited. I came out of it very excited, but I discovered a few things since the Scary Fast event that left me feeling dissatisfied, demoralized, and unsure of whether or not I actually want to buy one of these machines now. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about M3, M3 Pro, and M3 Max first.
I think we'll get to that after I read from the story here.
Yeah.
Apple M3, M3 Pro, and M3 Max boost Mac performance up to 50%. The M2 is a fairly modest improvement over the original version, but the M3 brings more of a boost. Much of that comes from the switch from a 5nm production process to a 3nm one, shrinking the chip's components, allow them to work faster while generating less waste heat. The basic M3 packs 8 processor cores and a 10-core GPU. The M3 Pro has 12-core CPU and 18 GPU cores. The M3 Max takes it up to 16 CPU cores and 40 GPU cores. The M3 chip can handle up to 24 gigabytes of RAM, the M3 Pro 36, while the M3 Max goes up to 128 gigabytes. That's double what you could ever get on a MacBook Pro on Intel. Apple says the performance cores in the M3 series are 15% faster than the ones in the M2 and 30% faster than the M1. I think that's a much larger proportional leap in performance than we got from M1 to M2. Of course, the real story is in the GPU, although, wait, I don't seem to have those numbers offhand.
Yeah, I don't know if we have the
efficiency.
actual performance percentages, but from what I found out in my research so far, is there aren't very big GPU performances in this generation over M2. So that's going to be a point that I come back to later. But please continue for now. We'll talk about that more later.
Sure. So those are the performance cores. The efficiency cores are 30% faster than the ones in M2 and 50% faster than M1. That's a big leap. And I'll come back to that in a moment. On the graphics side, it features dynamic caching, which is, it's not a thing that like they borrowed from the PC world. This is a totally brand new concept. The idea here is that one second, a traditional GPU only uses like the exact amount of memory, like a fixed quantity of memory needed for any like thread running on your computer. And if you're not familiar, like every app running on your computer can have multiple threads of processes running simultaneously. Typically, the amount of memory that it allocates to that are like a fixed size. So you have like a lot of wasted graphics performance there on every cycle. Dynamic memory caching, I think it's called. Yeah, they somehow, without any changes to the code, like developers don't need to adopt this. They don't need to rebuild their apps to enable this. Some sort of smarts happen inside the GPU itself to like combine processes in like the same cycle from different threads. So you get like, you squeeze more juice out of the GPU than you would normally get from just, increasing the speed at the GPU itself. Also new to the GPU is hardware accelerated ray tracing, a first from the Mac, hardware accelerated mesh shading. This should improve games, any sort of like on-device graphics significantly. They have, for streaming video, you include hardware supported AV1 decoding. That's the video format used by many streaming services, including YouTube, where you're probably watching this very live stream if you're watching.
We are for the first time using AV1 to encode our show. We're also encoding at a much higher bit rate. So I don't know if anyone notices, like, does our show look better? You're all watching the stream. I'm doing the stream, so I can't quite tell yet. But we increased the fidelity of the show, and we changed to a better codec, which I didn't even know was supported by YouTube. So the show should look a lot better. You should be able to see our faces much more clearly, which, depending on who you are, may be a good or a bad thing, but it should be more clear. And we should also be broadcasting at 1440p instead of 1080p. So let me know in the chat, like, if you are seeing us more clearly. If it, I mean, Adrian's saying it does look better. There you go.
And so now
Um,
if you're watching this stream on an M3 machine, it'll occupy much less battery life too, decoding all this video,
yeah,
thanks to
also
the new
true.
media engine. So Apple says the M3 GPU is able to deliver 65% more performance than the M1, or offer the same performance at nearly half the power. And I think when they were brought up their various graphs, they said that it's like a fifth the power level of like the latest PC that they could find. Good stuff there. But I think in like the few days since the announcement, people have like unpacked a lot more of the details than
Oh
what Apple
yeah.
talked about during the show.
Oh yeah.
They made some changes that I'm gonna mention first to the M2 Pro. I'm sorry, the M3 Pro. The Pro series chip used to just be like the Max with, a few of the legs cut off,
Mm-hmm.
a few less a few fewer cores. But based on Apple's imagery that they posted of them, for the first time, the M3 Pro seems to be a bespokely designed chip.
Hmm.
It's not just like a slightly smaller version of the Max. It's its own designed chip, and they also changed the number, like the balance of performance and efficiency cores. It
Yes, they
has
did.
two fewer performance cores and two more efficiency cores,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very interesting strategy. They seem to be bringing down the Pro chip a little bit and raising the ceiling of the Max chip. They're making the Max chip even more Pro than before and sort of, middling down the Pro chip. What do you feel about that?
Oh man, I think that you're taking us into the crux of what I was going to mention is I do think that they did that. They deproed I think pretty much all their chips. They're offering fewer cores. They are offering less memory bandwidth. You can still get the performance that you come to expect from like the M or the Max series of chips, but now you have to literally pay top dollar for it. The M3 Max has been bifurcated. There used to just be, I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think there used to just be one Max chip. Now there are two Max chips. And the one that you used to get for the top price, the $34.99, is now a binned version of the M Max chip with fewer GPU cores than my M1 Max. I mean, this whole thing is so confusing. And so, whereas the top amount of money that you used to spend for the highest level performance pre-configured MacBook Pro 16-inch was $34.99, now if you want the machine that they pitched you on stage, that machine is now $3,999, and that's
Mm.
before you even change anything. And a big reason for that is now if you want the top tier M3 Max chip, because now there's two, you have to spend an extra $300 to upgrade that to the 16 CPU core, 40 GPU core chip that they talked about on stage. By the way, that's the only chip that has 400 gigabits per second of memory bandwidth. All the others are 300 or 150. Like they're less than you would expect them to be. They should be around 400, but now they're like Apple is using less memory bandwidth. I presume to save themselves money. And so you have to spend an extra $300 to upgrade the chip. And actually, I should bring this up. And then what's also sneaky about it is if you want to get the M3 Max with the most CPU, most GPU cores, you're also forced to upgrade your memory and go from, I think, 36 gigabytes to 48 gigabytes, which is another $200. Hence
There's
the
something very
price
interesting
range.
about that. I think because what you alluded to in the there is now a binned version of the Max chip. It's not just binned by the number of cores, but it's also binned by the number of memory modules. So the ideal Max chip, like they make a whole wafer of Max chips. They test one. This one works perfectly. It has four memory modules and all of the cores that they say it has. The binned version is what they sell you if it only has three working memory modules, which is why if you order a lower level Max chip, you have these weird numbers like, 24 gigabytes of memory, 36 gigabytes of memory. If you order a Max chip with all of the functioning memory modules, then it's going to be a multiple of 4 instead of a multiple of 3. So you have the more typical numbers like 64 and 128.
This gets to be so confusing, and I actually built a spreadsheet so I could even figure out like what was going on here. I'm not going to bore you all with the details. All I guess I would sum it up this way is we need to wait and see what the benchmarks are, because I think in many respects you're actually now getting less for your money than you were before. Like, and I think a perfect example of this is back to the 16-inch MacBook Pro example. So with the M3 Max version of the or the I should say the 3499 version of the M3 Max, before with an M1 Max that would have gotten you 10 CPU cores and 32 GPU cores. Well, now with the M3 Max version, that gets you that same price for the same configuration, right? At the 16-inch MacBook Pro at that price range, gets you 14 CPU cores and 30 GPU cores. So you're going down in GPU cores. And the fundamental idea of technology as it progresses is you get more for less price. But now you're getting less for the same price. So I find this to be really confusing. Now, I think there will be people who say, well, the performance will be better because its efficiency has improved, and so it may make up for it. Well, I think that's probably true. It may even eke out the M1 Max at the same price tag because of the extra efficiency that you're getting just from the processors and the cores being faster. But I want to see those benchmarks, man, because I'm not sure that you're going to get a huge increase in GPU performance with the 3499 M3 Max over the M1 Max, because you're losing eight cores. Well, technically you're losing 2 cores, but with the top end version, you're losing 8 cores. I just think this whole thing is confusing. Yeah, sorry, go for it.
I want to direct you to the homepage of cultmac.com. It doesn't have the lead spot, but I think we just posted today, somebody has, like, some benchmarks have started to roll in.
Okay.
And what people have found is that I know this is the top configuration and not necessarily what you're discussing here. The top configuration M3 Max performs as good as the M2 Ultra.
Okay. So
it seems like the performance is a significant leap from before. So you might actually have comparable performance on the binned M3 Max compared to the full power M2 Max.
Okay, so we'll have to wait and see what the benchmarks are for the slower machines. Let's see. After the initial results for the M3 benchmarking came in, further tests showed that the M3 Max is 42% faster than the M2 Max. What does that even mean, though? Or about as fast as the M2 Ultra? Like, does that mean single core performance? Does that mean GPU performance? Does that mean CPU performance? This is just too early. And no one has these machines yet. So by the time people get their hands on these, we'll have a lot more information. But again, my takeaway right now is that Apple is giving you less for your money than they were before. Like, the top tier M3 Max machine used to be $34.99, and now it's $4,000. Like, that's a huge price increase. And across all the different models, it seems like you're getting fewer CPU cores, fewer GPU cores than you were for the same spec machine in the M2 Max generation. Now, I've been watching a lot of videos and doing research on this, and it seems like maybe the reason that this has happened is because Apple was waiting for TSMC's newer 3-nanometer process to go into effect, which was going to allow them to build faster chips for a smaller price, and those chips are not going to be available. That manufacturing process is not going to be available to the end of the year. And so it seems like Apple just decided to use the current 3-nanometer process, and the yields for those chips are much lower. Those chips tend to be more expensive for that reason. And so maybe Apple is trying to offer you chips that give you the performance they want, but still maintain their profit margins. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. But all that to say, now you have to make the decision, right? If you're going to be buying one of these machines, do you want to buy a binned version of one of these chips, or do you want if you want to get the max performance, now your cost has gone way up. You're going to have to spend up to 20% more to get the machine that Apple was showing off on stage. And yeah, that one may be as fast as an M2 Ultra. Maybe it is. But what about all the lesser spec machines like the M3 Pro? Like, how's that going to do? The binned M3 Max chip, like, how's that going to do? That's what I'm not sure of. And Apple made a lot of comparisons to the M1 series of chips and even Intel series MacBook Pros when they were doing the keynote, which was interesting. And to me, that maybe indicates that performance over the M2 Max isn't going to be as significant as maybe we were hoping. Which, you know, if you're upgrading from an M2 Max, do you ever expect to have huge gains? Maybe not. So, I don't know. Like, I'm not even sure if it's worth upgrading from an M1 Max to go to these new series of chips unless you're willing to spend $4,000 plus tax. And I don't know about all of you, but like $4,000 plus tax, that's kind of hard to swallow in my opinion. Yeah.
I came away impressed by the M3, but I will say I wasn't even going into this. I was telling you you don't need to upgrade from M1 to M3.
Well, I think a lot of people after 2 years with their Mac feel like it's a good time to upgrade. But again, I hate to keep bashing on this point, but it is very confusing. Like when the memory bandwidth has been reduced across the line and is less than the M2 Max, unless you pay top dollar for the $4,000 machine, I find that to be weird. And fewer cores, fewer CPU cores, fewer GPU cores for the same price tag that you were paying in the M2 generation. I just don't know what to make of it. And this is where we're going to have to wait for channels like Max Tech is the one that I'm waiting for. They probably dropped I'm going to guess they dropped 20 grand on new Macs, and they're going to be running all the benchmarks to see how performant these machines are. Out of all the Macs that we've seen come through in the last 10 years, I don't think there's a Mac that I have been more hesitant to buy before seeing benchmarks than these machines. Like, I want to see what these machines can actually do.
Let me put it to you this way. The M2 generation, our understanding after that reveal was that Apple seems to be boosting the core count of all the M2 chips to make up for the fact that M1 to M2 isn't a very significant leap. It could just be that this generation, they're just sort of reversing that decision, like paring back the number of core counts because they know that the chips themselves are performing faster with fewer cores.
Yeah, that might be true, and that kind of goes to my earlier point is maybe they feel like the raw power efficiency of these new chips is going to make up for the amount of cores that they are not giving you. I mean, maybe that's true, but I don't know, man. I and in instances where they have added cores, to your point earlier, like they have added efficiency cores instead of performance cores in some instances. I'm looking through my notes here to see if I could give you a concrete example. Let's see here. Yeah, so here's an example. The M2 Pro, it had 8 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores. And the M3 Pro has 6 performance cores and 6 efficiency cores. So they're giving you more efficiency cores. Well, I mean, that's not what you want when you buy an M2 Pro. You don't want more efficiency cores. If I wanted efficiency, I'd buy a freaking MacBook Air. You know what I mean? So I find that to be a very odd move. And again, I just keep repeating myself. Sorry. We'll have to wait and see.
I have one last point before we move on.
Yeah.
We were going into this before the M3 was revealed. At least I was thinking, well, the A17 switched from 5 nanometers to 3 nanometers, and we didn't actually see a very big performance boost or a big gain in battery life when the iPhone switched to 3 nanometers. Does that mean that the M3 is going to be kind of a dud too? It looks like, based on Apple's numbers and from the Geekbench numbers that we're seeing, that the M3 is kind of a pretty significant jump in performance, price notwithstanding. So that just makes me wonder, what happened to the A17 then? If the 3 nanometer process does give them a big jump in performance, why is the A17 just kind of a mediocre jump from the A16?
I have no answers for you. like I said, I was really excited when we first saw these machines announced, and I was like, oh, space black looks beautiful. Can't wait to get my hands on that. Then I saw the price tags and all the confusing changes that they made where it seems like we're going backwards. Less memory bandwidth, fewer performance cores, fewer cores, just period, for the same amount of money that you would have spent in the M2 generation. I really have no answers for you all at this point. We're so early in this. Like, these announcements were just made that we need to see these machines come through and get tested. But
Why don't you tell us about the MacBook Pro?
yeah, what we could talk about that. Especially since I'm just going in circles. So let's see here. Let me bring up my notes. We have the 3 new M3 MacBook Pro models. So first and foremost, I guess I would tell you, you probably already know this, but the 13-inch MacBook Pro is no more. The Touch Bar model is gone forever. And what they did instead is they added a new lower cost 14-inch MacBook Pro model with an M3. So you don't even get an M3 Pro. It's literally like, and again, we're gonna have to wait and see the benchmarks. But it's essentially like a MacBook Air, but with a better screen and maybe better speakers or something. And so you're getting an M3 in a MacBook Pro, which that's the chip that they would normally use in a MacBook Air. So I'm like, how different in performance is this going to be from a MacBook Air? Probably not very much at all. It will probably be the same. You'll just get less pro features in other areas, like the screen is the one that I think is most obvious. Because now they also have a 15-inch MacBook Air. So if they put an M3 in the 14-inch MacBook Pro, but you could also get the M3 in the 15-inch MacBook Air at some point. Now that's gonna mind freak me here live on the show. I don't know what the main differences are going to be between those machines, or if they're even going to put an M3 in the MacBook Air at this point.
That is an interesting point. I was assuming that when they were to replace the 13-inch MacBook Pro model, they would go in the direction of, because if you have to make a balance between the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air, if I had to design a computer to fit in the middle of there, I would think, okay, well, I'll give it a Pro chip, but I'll sacrifice the edge-to-edge screen and the fancy design. Like, I would basically keep the 13-inch MacBook Pro form factor, but add MagSafe, get rid of the Touch Bar, put a Pro chip inside of that, keep the cheap rectangular screen and the cheap design.
Yeah.
They seem to go the other way, where they kept the form factor of the 14-inch MacBook Pro with the fancy screen and all that, but then they demoted the chip instead, which isn't the call I would make, but I'm mostly just glad the 13-inch MacBook Pro, as it existed, is now gone forever.
Yeah, that was an oddball machine for sure, and clearly a stopgap. So now you have 3 MacBook Pro models to choose from, right? So you have the M3 version, and then you have the M3 Pro version, and then you have the M3 Max version. And it starts at a lower price now. So what is it? $15.99 is the new low price, and it's funny. Somebody on the new X was like, well, at least the price is lower now. And I was like, well, it is, but it's only because they're putting in an M3 in there. So it's not lower because they're lowering their price. They're just going to give you a lower spec tier.
They introduced a newer, lower model.
Yeah, exactly. So
well, at least now I feel like if somebody's interested in a MacBook, you don't need to give them a warning before they buy a computer. You can point at any MacBook and say they're all good. Buy whatever you can afford or whatever you want. Whereas before you couldn't say that. You had to say, oh, but stay away from this particular model. Why? And then it leads to an annoying technical conversation about the Touch Bar.
I have to admit, I LOL'd. I was watching a video from Snazzy Labs. I've been watching everyone's reactions to the new MacBook Pros and the M3 series of chips and stuff. And he was talking about who's going to buy like the M3 version of the MacBook Pro and why did Apple offer it? And he's like, well, the answer is stupid people. Now look, I'm not gonna go out and say he's right, but I mean, there's a lot of people that don't follow this stuff as closely as all of us, and it's like buying a car and all the different specs and everything. People just don't really know what's best, and now they're like, "Oh, I'm buying a MacBook Pro. Yeah, but you're getting it with an M3, which is a consumer version. A consumer version. It's the low power version of the chip that they normally put in the MacBook Air, and it feels like Apple's just calling it Pro to like trick people who aren't paying attention that they're getting like a pro level machine when they're not. They're getting a MacBook Air, and it's just in the same form factor as the MacBook Pro body.
But that
Uh,
means that they're getting an HDMI port and an SD card slot.
yeah, right. Well,
That
there you
makes it
go.
Pro.
That maybe.
And the keyboard well is black.
Although Phil Schiller said that the SD card slot is not a Pro port, so touche.
Mm.
So they can't say that now because they would be going against what Phil Schiller said. So
Well, and Phil Schiller isn't the director of worldwide product marketing anymore.
that's true. What does he do anymore? He's probably super tan. He doesn't even wear clothes anymore. He just walks around in a speedo and a gold chain, and island hops in his $100 million yacht. So, what haven't I said? So now you can get a MacBook Pro starting at $1,599 with the M3. It goes all the way up to $4,000 now if you want the one that Apple showed off on stage, the 16-inch MacBook Pro with the 16-core CPU, the 40-core GPU. I think the play might be this. If you really want one of these new machines, and this is what I'm thinking about. So the 14-inch MacBook Pro might be the way to go, because now it's the one that you can actually get for an affordable price, in my opinion, if you want it fully spec'd out with a 16-inch CPU, 40-core GPU version of the M3 Max. I would probably vie for that one and lose a little bit of screen real estate, assuming that it performs as well as the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which hasn't been the case in previous versions of the Mac series of chips. Usually the 14-inch doesn't perform as well. So I'm hoping they fix the thermal design in such a way that it will keep up with the 16-inch version of the M3 Max. And then, yeah, you lose a little bit of screen real estate, but you get the same performance, hopefully. And you also get the portability. Like, I love how lightweight the 14-inch is. And then if you want, you can also get like the space black version, which, by the way, is only available for M3 Pro and better spec'd versions of the MacBook Pro. What did you think of the space black version? I was actually a little disappointed to see they got rid of space gray. I didn't realize that they were going to do that, so they switched it out for space black, and I kind of think I like space gray better. What did you think?
I never liked space gray because I feel like it's too close to silver. And as I've said before, like pure silver and black is like the canonical Apple look, in my opinion.
Uh-huh.
I do welcome the idea of space black, except it isn't entirely black though, is it? It's not as black as they could get.
It's like dark gray.
Because if you look even at Apple's own product images, if you look at the keyboard well, like the little space around the keys is blacker than the rest of the computer. So it isn't it's like space black if you live in the Bay Area with light pollution and you don't know how dark the night sky actually gets. I feel like that explains it, why they think black is like this sort of medium gray.
I need to see it in person. I didn't think that I would love space gray as much as I do, but once I saw it in person, I was like, wow, this actually really is a beautiful color. Let me point something else out. So I hate to flog this horse, but let's just say you have an M2 Max 16-inch MacBook Pro, right? So you have a let me see here. You have a 12-core CPU, 38-core GPU. And for that same price, $34.99, which is how much that model cost. And by the way, that had 32 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte storage, right? You're going to go to the new $34.99 version of the M3 Max, and it has 14 CPU cores, so 2 extra cores, but 30 GPU cores. So you're losing 8 cores. I think my prediction is that the $34.99 version of the M3 Max is actually going to be worse performing when it comes to GPU cores than the M2 Max version, because that is a huge hit. Like 8 cores, I think that you're going to see that hit in video editing and anything else that's core intensive. And yes, it comes with more RAM. It comes with 36 gigabytes instead of 32, so you get a little bit there. But I think it's going to be worse performing in some benchmarks. I hope that I'm wrong. And if you're looking at performance cores, let's see here. The M3 Max version, the 3499 version, has 10 performance cores, 4 efficiency cores, versus the M core or the M2 Max had 8 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores. So you are getting 2 more performance cores with the 3499 version of the M3 Max. I honestly cannot believe anyone's here listening to all of this. We've been talking about nothing but specs for like the last 30 minutes, and our viewership just keeps going up. I'm like, is anyone
Okay.
even following any of this? Because I know it's very confusing to explain because there's so many variations happening now. Yeah.
Why don't you just have you decided on whether you're going to order one or not?
No, I
Let's
haven't.
say.
I want to see
Mm,
the. So if you want to know my bottom line, here's where I'm at. I was really excited, and now I'm hurt, I'm sad, and I'm disappointed because I'm not going to spend $4,000 on a MacBook Pro. And you look. I'll be forthright with you guys. You guys know that I have people that listen to this show who have very generously and kindly offered to give me 25% off, which I appreciate very much because that is a huge discount. Even with the 25% off, I'm still not sure I want to spend the money, man, because like that, I feel like Apple is nickel and diming us so hard now that it makes me not want to buy one just kind of on principle alone. But if I do go and buy one, I think the move that I would consider to be the best for myself would be to go for the performance but with the smaller form factor. So look at the 14-inch MacBook Pro, go for the 16-core CPU, 40-core GPU version. I hope that it performs at the same level as the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Like that's kind of what I'm worried is not going to be true. Is it's going to be it's going to have to scale back due to heat reasons or whatever because it only has the one fan. But we're going to have to wait and then see what the testing shows. So if the testing proves that that machine performs as well as the 16-inch model, then that's the one I will probably go for. What say you, chat? Level Remix prefers Space Gray. The Max and Pro versions always had 2 versions of each. Okay, so I wasn't sure about that for the M2 version. The M1 Max, I don't think that was true. The M2 Max, I could be wrong about that. Let's see here. Oded saying the downgrade only happened on the M3 Pro chips that has less GPU cores and memory bandwidth than the M2 Pro. But the M3 Pro should still be faster than the M2 Pro. I hope you're right about that. All right. Have we sufficiently flogged that story?
I think we have.
Just to put a bow on it, to say what I've already said 10 times, I'm waiting for the benchmarks. I want to see how the M3 versions perform against the same priced M2 versions and see what's going on there, and hopefully someone compares them to the M1 versions, although that's kind of a big ask for YouTube reviewers.
I think you should just wait for M4. M4 is probably going to switch to the new 3 nanometer the enhanced 3 nanometer process
it's
anyways.
Like 3. I think they're using like the 3NB process right now, and then the 3NE process is the one that is supposed to be way more efficient and reduce costs. So maybe Apple will go back to offering their best performing models for $34.99 for the next MacBook Pro, although I seriously doubt that they will do that.
Like I remember reading that just like the M3 Max chip is just such a like physically large chip. It's just genuinely hard to manufacture. So I wouldn't be surprised if the raised price is just like, yeah, we built this chip and we just made it too hard to manufacture, so it just costs more, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, maybe that's right. I hope this isn't the new normal because I hate feeling like I'm buying a binned version of their top tier performer. But again, for me, I need to have 2 terabytes of storage, so that's an extra $400 upgrade right there. I'm like, do I want to spend $4,400 on a laptop plus tax? I think that's too much, in my opinion, to spend $5,000 essentially on a laptop. And I don't want to compromise by buying one that has way fewer cores. So even if Apple is giving you more performance because M3 is so much more efficient and more powerful, it feels like they're giving you less. And I think that's the part that I don't like. Akash from the chat, yep, I will keep my M1 Max until M4. Dude, honestly, that's what I was thinking. I was like, you feel like you need to upgrade, but do you really need to upgrade? Are you maxing out your M1 Max? I certainly am not. I could very easily keep it. It does everything with 4K that I need. I'm not editing any 8K timelines. So it's probably more OP than I even need right now, but it still hurts my feelings. I still want the best.
Good point, Griffin.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Well, let's turn this around
yeah.
and let me tell you about the iMac.
All
How
right.
does that
Well,
sound?
sure. Actually, before you do that, I do want to give another quick thanks here. We actually have kind of a cool offer for our listeners here. Of course, I've completely lost my notes here because I got so far into the weeds. Yes. Okay. So, for all of you dear listeners, we have kind of a cool thing going for you. Have you ever found that you've needed a really powerful PDF editor and you want one that just does it all, right? Like you want something that you can use to create PDFs, to edit PDFs. You want something that scans them, that keeps a library of PDFs, something that you can use as a PDF reader. We have for you today a new sponsor, PDF Editor. PDF Book Reader is the name of the app. It's got over 22,000 ratings. It's been around forever. 4.3 star rating, so it's rated well. And it's like a Swiss Army knife for PDFs. In fact, let me go ahead and bring this up in browser mode. There we go. It's like a Swiss Army knife for PDFs. It literally does everything that you could want. You could sign docs. You could create your entire resume inside of your iPhone in this app. And the best part is it's free. And we are going to be giving away, I think, 10,000 subscriptions for the first year. So that will give you access to all the pro features for free just to try and use. So there's really no reason not to try it. It's the app was built natively for iOS and iPadOS. They also have a macOS app. So unlike some other PDF apps that are built in, I don't even know the name of the apps they use these days.
Electron.
Yeah, and then like distributed, and then it converts like their non-native app into a native app for iOS. This was actually built with care for iOS, iPadOS, macOS. And so it runs smoothly. Like it just feels like a native iOS app, which I think you'll probably really like. Here's how you get your hands on it if you want, and I'll include all this in the show notes. You can search your Mac App Store or the App Store for PDF Editor, PDF Book Reader, and there's also a link that I'll include in the show notes, and I'll put this in the chat as well, that you can click, and it will take you to a page where you can enter in this code, and the code is Cult of Mac, all one word, Cult of Mac. And that will unlock the pro features for a whole year. You don't have to pay anything to download it. You don't have to pay anything to use it. And you can use all these features for free. This code expires on December 1st, 2023. So if you're thinking about using this, if you want to try it out, don't wait too long. I mean, obviously, it's not right around the corner, but you would want to use it before it expires, obviously. And we have 10,000 activations with this specific code, which we have way more than 10,000 listeners. So if you want to use it, you should use it before it gets used up, which is actually a real possibility if people want to try it out. So I posted that in the chat. I'll put that in the notes. And again, the app is called PDF Editor, PDF Book Reader. If you want a do-it-all Swiss Army knife PDF app that you can use to do anything that you need to do with PDFs, which, PDFs are a necessary evil. Like we all have to do something with PDFs eventually. But one of the things I like about this is that you can add your signatures to documents on the go, which is like one of the top things that I need to do. So even if you only use it for that reason, that would be something that I think would save you some time and save you some money. All right, cool. Let's talk about iMac. We shouldn't neglect iMac, Griffin. It's not what we were hoping for, but it's not the iMac we wanted, but it is the iMac we needed. How about that?
I think it's pretty reasonable for the market. It's the iMac that the consumers will buy.
Yeah.
I don't know, in retrospect, how realistic our dreaming was for the iMac. But let me tell you about it. The iMac obviously never got the M2. It is finally being brought up to the M3. Uh, so let's compare it to the 2021 model really quick. The new iMac has an 8-core CPU and up to 10-core GPU, up to 24 gigabytes of memory. The old one, 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU, only 16 gigabytes of memory. Both come up to 2 terabytes of storage. With the new one, you get the hardware accelerated ray tracing, the ProRes encode and decode engine, and the AV1 decode, and all the fun new GPU stuff that we got before on all the other M3 chips. Apple says that Safari is up to 30% faster. Productivity apps like Microsoft Excel are up to 30% faster. Faster game loading times with up to 50% higher frame rates. Twice as fast image processing in Photoshop, and Veda production in Final Cut Pro. So this is a significant performance. Like the iMac was never a performance demon, but if the iMac is all you can get, it's just one thing you can buy with a computer and the display built into it. If that's all you want, if you want a really simple setup, like a lot of businesses use these. Apple always shows in their marketing images pictures of it like sitting in a kitchen, which is confusing to me. But if you are that person, you want a kitchen
you need a ray
computer.
tracing for those cookbook websites that you're visiting.
Exactly. It's also updated to Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3, so better wireless connectivity as well, and the same colors. They didn't cut any colors.
And we didn't get black. We didn't get black. What happened to the black? We thought for sure that was going to happen. Nope, it didn't.
Oh well. There is another missing piece to this puzzle as well. I'm really happy with the iMac, for the people who are buying an iMac, but I was hoping for an updated Magic Mouse and keyboard. We all thought it was going to happen.
I thought it was a sure thing, absolute sure thing.
We should have known that there weren't actually any concrete rumors, and everyone was just like talking about it, like wishing it into existence. But sadly, our dreams did not come true. It still ships with a USB-C to Lightning cable. I'm not going to buy a Lightning Magic trackpad. I want to. I still have a few years left with Lightning since I'm keeping my phone for another year.
Yep.
And my wife is going to be on Lightning for a while. So I know that like Lightning is going to stay in my life, but that doesn't mean I'm going to buy a new Lightning accessory.
No, they're
if
dead.
I can avoid it. Yeah.
I mean, it's like they're on their way out, so you're going to have to buy as little as necessary just to make your life work.
I will stick with my sad original Magic trackpad. I'll have to buy new AA batteries for it soon.
Maybe put some epoxy across that big old crack on the top of it or something, or maybe some Scotch tape or something,
You don't feel it. Like, I haven't cut my fingers or anything. Like, it still feels like a smooth piece of glass.
I didn't even think about that.
Cracked.
It actually seems dangerous. One wrong swipe and you're going to be in the ER, dude.
Yeah. Or my cat will just like knock it off the table and you never know.
Yeah, like chewing through your headphone cable. That's why you gotta not get cats, man. Hey, look, I love cats. But they are destroyers. They will destroy everything in your whole life. And look, if you die, that cat would be the first one to eat you.
That's true. I used to share at my old office. I shared my office space with my dogs, but since we moved here, like my office is now in like the cat exclusive part of the house that they have like separate from the dogs. I kind of miss having the dogs as my office mates, but because they never chewed through any cables.
Well, actually, ironically enough, the only cable I've had chewed through was by my dog, but it was a puppy at the time, and I came home and I had elaborately strung this Cat 6 or Cat 5 cable across my entire house, and then she chewed through it, and I was like, that means I have to basically rerun this entire Cat 5 cable across my whole house to get internet upstairs again. But she was a baby. And actually, funny enough, like you were contacting your guy to see if you get a replacement cable for your headphones. But I had a Bluetooth headset that I was reviewing, and I came home and I found it in pieces on the floor. And not even all the pieces. Like my dog had swallowed the rest of the pieces. So I had to contact Plantronics, who made the headset, and literally tell them that my dog ate their product. Like my dog ate my homework, And I was like, I don't even know what to say to you. Like, I'm sorry. My dog literally ate your headset. I was like, we could just call it good and not do anything else. But if you want me to review this, you're going to have to send me another one because I don't have it anymore. Well, that's not true. I have it. It's hanging by a wire in like 30 different pieces. But my dog ate your product. I'm sorry.
That's crazy.
All right. So, anything else on the iMac that we should talk about?
Uh, Not really. It's a pretty simple update, but if you're in
Yeah.
the market for an iMac, you can now buy a much better iMac. Before we move on, though, I want to remind everybody that we have a giveaway going on cultofmac.com right now.
Oh, all
This is
right.
the same as last week, the super versatile folding origami iPad case from SwitchEasy. We like SwitchEasy. They make a lot of fine accessories for MagSafe and for iPhone and iPad. Unlike Apple's sort of a smart cover or even their Magic Keyboard, they don't really protect the iPad or offer any sort of you know damage or drop protection whatsoever. This is a case that is inspired by Apple's smart cover. It covers the display. It wakes up when you open it automatically. It's like sort of a folding screen cover, except it has many more positions that it folds into. It folds like both across and also diagonally across it. So this is a case that can turn into a keyboard stand. It can like prop your iPad up, both landscape and portrait. And it has a full back all the way around the iPad, just like you would expect from a traditional case. So you have drop protection, and you can fold your iPad up, carry it around any which way you might want to. It's an excellent product. I think we still have
3 days
there are
left.
4 ways to 3 days left.
Yep.
Yes.
That's a cool case, and I like that it folds up in all these different orientations that you can point your iPad in any direction you want. So if you are looking for a new case for your iPad, I will post this in the chat, and I'll post this in the show notes as well. I always say, look, a lot of people don't enter competitions. This is not a competition, I guess. Contests. We should make it a competition, actually. We should have them do something competitive, like they have to arm wrestle or maybe like bounce their pecs up and down or something. I don't know. We could workshop this later. But if you want to enter and not even have to compete, you just have to just put an entry in. You got a chance of winning this. I think people are sometimes surprised that they win. And we have people here in the chat sometimes, pipe in when we're talking about the giveaways. And they're like, I won. I'm like, I told you. So give it a shot. Matt. Oh, my. Before we go on, I also have to say thank you to Clifford St. Remy, who just gave us a super chat. We never get super chats. What are we doing wrong? How come no one throws their money at us? I bet Gruber's getting all sorts of chats all day long. Maybe we need to show some more leg like Gruber does. So he says, hello. I've been listening since the beginning, and I just want everyone to know that I love him. Aw, shucks. And Clifford is better at this than Mike. And Clifford is better at this than Mike. Is that a reference I should get? And Clifford is better at this than Mike. Nothing? No?
His name is Clifford.
And Clifford,
So is he
better than this at Mike? Was Mike another super chat person? No idea. Oh, maybe Mike's listening. I bet you that's it. Mike's listening. And and Clifford wants you to know that he's better than you. And you know what, Mike? I don't know very much about you, but I can tell from the way that Clifford constructs his sentences, plus I can see a tiny avatar here, that I think he's right. I think he is better than you, Mike. I think you need to get your act together. And maybe, I don't know, brush your teeth, do some push-ups. Thank you, Clifford, for that huge $27.99 super chat. Oh, my goodness. I'm going out to lunch today on Clifford. I also want to say from the chat, it looks like, where did this comment go? Chris Wood, 14-inch MacBook Pro doesn't have the 16 CPU, 40 GPU max chip, FYI. Well, you know what, Chris? Look, I don't want to embarrass you. I hope you're not with your girlfriend or your friends, because I'm going to embarrass you live here on the show. At least I think I am. Let's just confirm this right now, because I think that that's clearly not true. Let's go to apple.com. Are you ready for this, Clifford? Here it comes. MacBook Pro. We're going to go down to the Order Now button. Maybe he's right. If he's right and I'm wrong, this is going to be truly embarrassing. I don't think so, though. And we're going to go down to the 14-core. Now, I think the reason you think this, Clifford, or not Clifford, sorry, Mike. No, wait, not Mike. Chris. I think the reason you think this, Chris, is because they don't have a pre-configured version of it. But if you go into the configurator you can see that you can indeed upgrade it to the 16-core CPU, 40-core GPU option. You're going to have to pay TC an extra $500 for that, because when you upgrade to the 16-core, 40-core version, you also have to upgrade your RAM from 36 gigs to 48 gigs. So it doesn't cost you $300 to upgrade; it costs you $500 to upgrade, which they don't tell you. So when you click the button, you can see the prices went from $31.99 to $36.99, which is a whole lot of dough for a computer. And then if you want to upgrade the storage like I do, now you got to spend another $400. So my configuration, without any discounts, would be $4,100 essentially, which is about the same price as the 16-inch MacBook Pro was that I currently own for all the for the best Max chip and for the same increase in SSD storage. So, there you go. That is an option for you all. All right, let's continue on. I think we have just a couple more updates. Oh, that's right. Just a couple quick updates before we talk about the predictions from last episode. So we don't know who won, but we do know that Lewis lost. Which, even if I don't win, I'm happy that Lewis lost. So a couple of just quick topics. Some of you may have heard that the Scary Fast event was filmed on a iPhone 15 Pro. And people were arguing about this week, and they were pissed because they were surprised to learn that it wasn't just some big fat guy with Cheeto stands on his shirt holding an iPhone. I was like, go ahead, Tim. Like, they had a whole team of professionals there filming with lights that probably cost more than a maxed out MacBook Pro. And I don't know about you, Griffin, but when I first saw the stream, let me see if I can find this. I actually thought the picture looked weird. Like, it looked like they I don't know if it's because they filmed it on an iPhone or if it's because they filmed it at 60 frames per second or something. It looked like it had soap opera effect big time. And I noticed immediately, like, I don't think I could have articulated what was wrong with it, but it looked to me like they were doing something different than they normally did, and it turns out that they actually filmed the whole thing on iPhone. They also released a new behind-the-scenes video that shows how they filmed the whole event, which I thought was really pretty interesting. But people were surprised to see that they had used, like, all this lighting equipment and all this special equipment to film it. I'm like, dude, well, yeah. They're not going to just have some schmo holding a phone walking around. Like, they're trying to sell billions of dollars worth of new Macs. Like, of course they're going to spend all the money on professionals and equipment to make the picture look as good as possible. I know you said you had some thoughts on this, Griffin. What were you going to say?
I think what a lot of people misunderstand is that, like, a proper, like, TV production quality camera or a cinematic camera, like, sure, the camera itself is expensive, but at a certain point the camera starts to become, like, the least important part of the whole setup. Like, once you get to, like, a high enough quality, a majority of the cost of a TV or a movie camera is in the gimbal that it's sitting on, the lenses that you attach to the camera, the lights, the microphones, everything else. Like, the camera itself is at a certain level, like, the least important thing, the least important part of the process of filming something on TV or movies, which sounds ridiculous. Like, but like, the gimbal, the lens attachments are far more expensive, and that's what really gives it. That's what takes it from, like, the last 20% of the look. And now it is impressive that, like, an iPhone is able to swap into that spot, but I think a lot of it still comes from, like, making it look that good comes from all the extra bits that they
100%,
they attach to, like,
dude,
the rest of the cinematic.
And I would say it makes that stuff even more critical because iPhones do not do super well in low light, and they don't have nearly the same dynamic range as cameras that are more expensive. And by dynamic range, I mean the ability to show, to accurately show different light gradations. So, from the brightest light to the darkest light? Like, can it show everything within those differences and show it all in the same image without blowing something out or making something look too dark? And
Well, a
so you have
big
to
part
be
of
extra
that
careful
is
for lighting.
specifically that a big part of that is that they filmed it on the iPhone 15 Pro, and I think the reason they waited until this specific generation of iPhone to do that is because it has the log encoding for color grading, which significantly reduces the amount of like blown out brights and like muddy shadows that you're used to seeing on a phone footage. Because
Yeah.
it like all of the brightness is log encoded. So if you don't know what that means, it basically adds additional math to the picture, like capturing extra detail that you would not normally get like straight out of the camera. So you bring that footage into Final Cut Pro and everything looks like muted and gray and desaturated,
Yep.
but then you start fiddling with it and you find out that there's so much more detail in the color in there that you wouldn't be able to normally get.
Huh. So I'm reading the chat here. Jay Cruz is saying too much digital edge. Yeah, they should have put a Pro Mist filter on it. That would have been so funny. I don't know what cracks me up about Tim Cook and a Pro Mist filter. It does kind of seem like he lives his life in a Pro Mist filter. He just looks so soft and non-wrinkled everywhere he goes. Yeah, so the iPhone definitely has, and not just the iPhone, but phones in general, they tend to over sharpen their image. So I also don't understand the point of recording your whole event with iPhone. Like, what is this trying to prove? Because professionals aren't going to use iPhones to film their cinematic works, and people who don't pay attention to cameras don't care what your event was filmed on, right? Like, it's not going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to buy an iPhone because they filmed their scary fast event with an iPhone. It must be a professional tool. It's like people who are interested in professional tools aren't going to use an iPhone, and people who aren't interested in professional tools don't care what camera you used. So I don't really understand what the point was, but they use an iPhone. Pretty cool. Let's see, real
Well,
quick.
I think they're maybe not like professional people, but like, people on the amateur level, people who are shooting student films in college, people, or even in professional settings, in situations where a TV camera is just like too bulky or big to do what you want it to do. This is proving that an iPhone can do those things, and most people probably won't notice unless they're really paying attention.
Yeah. Level Remix says he shoots with an iPhone. It makes me want to get an iPhone 15 Max. I mean, that definitely has a beautiful camera. And the thing I don't like about iPhones is their low light performance. That continues to be an issue, but it's not strictly an iPhone problem. Obviously, it's like most cameras don't do well in low light. And I also think that they do tend to over sharpen, and sometimes the HDR looks a little bit too HDR-y, which I don't love, but I think for daily life, they actually create really beautiful pictures. I just want to address Nathan Therian's comment. The code is not working. Are you saying the code for the PDF app isn't working? It's Cultamac, all one word, all capital. So try that. And if anyone else is having problems with the code, let me know, and we'll have to look into that. Okay. Well, the last thing I want to mention just real quick before, and I thought this was kind of an interesting development because I didn't think we would see this anytime soon, is we had a report from the Germinator at Bloomberg about the next iPhone, and he's saying that...
The next Apple Watch.
Thank you, the next Apple Watch. He is saying that it will offer limited blood pressure monitoring. Now, that was surprising. I didn't think that we would see anything like this for at least 2-3 years. But according to Gurman, the 2024 edition of Apple Watch might finally include blood pressure monitoring, although the feature is going to be limited at first. What does that mean? So the watch will supposedly be called the Watch X for the 10th anniversary of the Apple Watch. I can't believe it's been 10 years. Obviously, Apple has been adding all sorts of health sensors over the years, and that's one of the main reasons to wear an Apple Watch. But like the big ones, like blood pressure, glucose monitoring, I think those would take this like into the next realm of usefulness. So he's saying the watch will debut in 2024. It will have blood pressure monitoring, but here's what he's saying about that feature. Quote, in its first iteration, the system is designed to just tell a user if their blood pressure is trending upward. So to me, that communicates that it's not going to tell you what your blood pressure actually is. It's going to just tell you if it's getting high. It's like, are you arguing with somebody in a new language that you learned thanks to Babbel? Oh, your blood pressure is going up. Did you just eat 8 slices of pizza with 500 milligrams of sodium? Oh, your blood pressure is going up. So I don't know if it's actually going to tell you what your blood pressure is. It might just tell you that you're having elevated blood pressure or something, which would still be useful. I'm trying to tease out if there's any other things that he said. Oh, yeah, so he does say in the same report, exact readings are still some years away. He also talked about non-invasive blood glucose monitoring, but he said, quote, it's still unlikely to show up in a product for at least a few years. So it looks like they're still working on that. But nonetheless, it looks like, at least according to Gurman, he's saying that we're going to get blood pressure monitoring, at least in some capacity, in the next Apple Watch, which, you know, I don't know what else they have up their sleeves for Apple Watch. It kind of feels like they're running out of ideas and running out of features to put in there. So I'm glad to see that they'll have something new for us. Okay. That was a lot. That was very dense. Thank you all for sticking around as we talk through all of that. We're going to have a lot more in-depth specs and I think opinions in the next week or two as we start seeing the benchmarks coming out with these new Macs. But this is one of the most confusing Mac drops that I've seen, especially with the different spec changes in cores and performance cores and efficiency cores. So I'm really curious to see. I think next week we will have a lot more information on how these computers actually do. And maybe it's not as big of a deal as it seems to me like it might be. But let's go ahead and move on to predictions. Griffin, let's bring this up. And we'll talk about who won last week's set of predictions. Let me see. You're doing your best poker face, I can tell. You're really trying hard not to indicate who might have won. So last week we went through and we made a series of predictions, as is becoming tradition, about what we expected to see at this Apple event. And I was watching the Apple event thinking to myself, oh, dude, like there's a lot of stuff in here that we talked about. So, but I do have very little sense about who actually won this. So let me go ahead and bring this up, and we'll just go through these one by one.
Even as I was marking the yeses and nos, I wasn't entirely sure who won it or not. It wasn't until I added up the scores at the very end. So let me walk through. How much time do we have? Can I go through these line by line, or do you want me to group them in section?
Let's just go through them line by line. I think that would be more fun.
iMac updated with M3. This genuinely was not a guarantee at the time that I wrote these. So we didn't know that, but we all voted for it, and we all got a point.
Get out of here! You have a triangle.
I had a triangle, and I'm gonna ding it when we all get it correct in unison.
That's great. Okay, I just love that you have a triangle. Should I break out my xylophone? I think I might have one here somewhere. I'll play us like the Nutcracker. All right, go ahead.
24-inch iMac comes with base chip and Pro chip. This is speculation. As it turns out, it did not happen. Lewis voted against it, but you and I were burned on that.
I can't believe that we didn't get this one. That was really surprising to me. The iMac stuff just really didn't come to fruition in any way, except for the M3 update. Okay, I'll take it. Take it on the chin.
In retrospect, I listened back to last week's episode and I said, well, the Mac Mini comes in both the regular and the Pro chip version, but I think I only assumed that Apple would keep them in lockstep because they're both desktop computers. I think Apple thinks about the iMac as being a desktop version of the MacBook Air. So I think so long as the MacBook Air doesn't ever get a Pro chip, the iMac won't either.
That's interesting.
Because I really looked at it and like, if you look at a teardown for the Mac Mini, it actually does have a pretty big, beefy power system and cooling system, which the iMac doesn't have.
Right.
So,
okay.
Anyways, 32-inch iMac introduced with Max chip and Ultra chip. We all voted against that. We were all correct.
Okay.
In fact, they specifically called out how the 24-inch size is the perfect size, no matter which iMac you're coming from. So I don't think we're seeing a big iMac in a while.
Okay.
iMac loses a few colors. This was like an Airfon bait that I put in there because you were saying, well, you know, iPhones are losing a lot of colors, but we all voted against it and we all get a point for that.
Go us.
So Lewis is ahead after the iMac round.
Well, I know that
Moving
won't
on to the
last.
MacBook Pros.
Okay.
13-inch and 15-inch MacBook Air updated with M3 chip. We all voted against that. 13-inch MacBook Pro adds MagSafe, drops Touch Bar. We all voted against that
Well, wait a second. 13-inch MacBook Pro adds MagSafe. Okay, well, yeah, clearly nothing
because they
happened with
discontinued
13-inch. Yeah, that's
13-inch
right.
MacBook Pro,
Yep.
which is, I think, a much better situation to end up in. 13-inch MacBook Pro gets M3 Pro chip and a higher price. They didn't come out with that, so
Yep.
obviously we all get a point there. We all voted against that.
Nice. Go us.
14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro updated with M3 Pro and Max. We both got that point. We all voted for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Dang.
14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro come with new display technology. This is a sort of off-the-wall rumor. It was a trap for Lewis. He fell for it. He lost a point there. So we are now all tied.
Well, that's kind of a tricky question. It doesn't come with a new display technology, but one of the things that we didn't mention is it does get brighter for SDR, 20% brighter, but that could be a software feature. So I don't think that we actually got this one wrong. Anyway,
I was fishing for like OLED, micro LED of some kind.
Oh yeah,
It's still the same
I was
display
hoping,
panel. It
but
just gets brighter.
Okay.
Yeah. Other hardware. AirPods Max updated with USB-C and lossless audio. Lewis voted for this.
Who was
It didn't
voting for
happen.
this?
No AirPods
He's clearly been in
whatsoever.
Italy. I mean, dude, he's clearly not listening to this show. We would have talked him out of that one, no problem.
Magic Keyboard, Mouse, and Trackpad updated with USB-C. We all fell for this one.
Well, I mean, that seemed like a no-brainer. I can't believe they didn't do it.
Any new iPad is released. We all knew better. We all voted no. We all got that correct.
Although that could have gone either way, because I heard a rumor that we were going to get the iPad Mini last
Really?
minute, but we didn't get it. So I don't remember what I was thinking at the time, but that was definitely on my mind.
Update on Vision Pro. You voted against that. Lewis and I thought, I was really expecting that they were going to give us a release date.
Oh boy, I pulled ahead.
Yeah.
We'll see if it lasts.
You're ahead
though.
by 1 point.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Miscellaneous round. A redesigned Apple TV app is shown. You voted against it. Lewis and I foolishly voted for it. You're ahead
man.
another point there. Presentations outside are all filmed at night. We all got this. We all voted for that.
Yeah.
At least one presenter is wearing a Halloween costume.
That was, you know what? We may have got that wrong, but that was their miss, not ours. They should have
Yeah.
had somebody in a freaking Halloween costume. That was a huge miss. It would have made them so much more personable. You know what I mean? Like if Tim Cook, I forget who it was, maybe Snazzy Labs was saying that he already looks like Frankenstein anyway. They should have just painted him green. And put those things in his neck. That cracked me up because he does kind of look like Frankenstein, doesn't he? Like his head's kind of squared. He's got like the white short hair that's combed forward, just like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Big miss, in my opinion.
We're not wrong. Apple's wrong. Apple TV Plus sizzle reel. They played a trailer for the Godzilla movie,
no.
but they
I
did
got that
not
right.
do a whole sizzle reel. So we both got it right. Lewis
Dude,
got
this
that
was
wrong.
all business, man. This was the second shortest Apple keynote that they've ever had, apparently, and it was all about trying to sell you those Macs.
Yeah, yeah. A new Mac is 100% carbon neutral. Lewis and I both voted for this. You voted against
Dude,
it. You get
I
the
am
point
pulling
there.
way ahead. I'm up 3 now, aren't I?
I think there was
think
also.
so.
Yeah, I think so. Next, some products available to order on the same day. I was actually getting scared because like the event is really late in the day. The Apple Store didn't close until like half an hour before it started. I was concerned that like they wouldn't be available the same day, but we all voted for it. We all get a point there.
Nice.
Event runs over 65 minutes. We all voted against it. We all get a point there.
Wow.
So the final score.
Oh, man.
Airfon, 17. Second place at 14. Lewis, 12.
Wow. Dun, 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 dun,
Congratulations.
dun, 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 dun. I thought it was going to be a lot closer than that because you and I were voting in lockstep for a lot of these. I'm trying to remember which ones. There were a couple of them that you and I debated, and like maybe you swung me over to your side maybe once or twice, and I swung you over to my side once or twice, but I can't remember what they were. But you and I were like pretty much lockstep the whole way, so that's pretty interesting that it's not as close as I thought it was. Well, there you go. And Lewis is at 12, and that is like a double win for me. It's like not only did I win, but Lewis lost, so I feel like I won again. which makes me
And
feel
he
good.
wasn't here to contest all of the things that we said he got wrong. So the scores are final.
Which, by the way, Lewis was supposed to be back today. He told us he was going to be gone for 2 weeks, and he was nowhere to be found, of course, when we were getting ready to record. So I'm guessing that he's flying back, like, as we speak. Yeah, none of us know.
Maybe.
Like, none of us have any idea where he is. All right, well, let's see here. I think that's it. I think that's all we got. So I feel like that was just all over the place, just specs galore. So I'm sorry that we just spent an hour and a half throwing specs at you, but hopefully that was helpful in some way, shape, or form, or at least you got to hear like how we were thinking about our purchases and all this. I didn't even ask you, Griffin, are you going to be buying anything?
No.
I didn't think so.
I still got the M2 Pro Mac Mini.
Yeah, you just bought
I
that.
don't need
So,
anything.
well, stay tuned till next week when we talk more about benchmarks, and I will have a much better idea if I will be buying one of these machines, because I'm really on the fence now. Like I said, they broke my heart with those big price increases for like the top spec'd MacBook Pros. But who knows? Maybe the 14-inch will be mine. We'll see.
I had $150 set aside for that trackpad, but they don't want my money, I guess.
They don't even want your money. That is surprising. Well, they've got enough of it. They don't need your money anymore. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. That's all the CultCast we have for you guys this week. But the fun continues on Twitter. I'm there. And Griffin's there sometimes. If you catch him at the right hour, he might be tuning in to see what people are saying. And I've actually got his handle on the screen now. If you want to go look for him, he's at DGriffinJones. I'm at Airfon. This has been the CultCast, the best 30-plus minute Apple conversation you're going to hear all week long. New episodes of the CultCast come out every Thursday night. I want to thank everyone for listening and for hanging out live. And for those of you who have been here since the beginning, the original Gov Club, it's incredible that we've had people here since 2012, I think, which is hard to even fathom. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it there. We'll see you guys next time. That's my campy Tim Cook ending. That's what he should have done. Tim Cook is at his best when he's having fun. What you think? He would have made a splendid Frankenstein, though.